So we're now going to hear the first of two testimonials in answer to the question, how do you choose your commitments? And what have you committed to? As we hear from Paul Introcaso, I would love to hear what your commitments are and how you chose them. So if you wouldn't mind writing them in the text chat, what your commitments are and how did you choose them? And I'm thrilled to have Paul Introcaso. Thanks, Paul.
Hey, good morning. I'm talking about what got me committed and what did. In early 2017, I took the course Being White in a Racist World. This was an 8-week course delivered at our church by Ken Wagner, who is an anti-racism activist and a fellow UU. About 40 of us attended. It was about the same time I was signing the book to become a member. For the first time, I learned about our legacy of white supremacy and white privilege. We learned about how a society can, as a society, we can invite people of color and other nationalities into our country and culture, and yet at other times, we tell them, we don't really want you. Ken showed us how in-depth and insidious the roots of racism are and about how white supremacy helps drive it. I'll never forget Ken's closing question to us at the end of the course. He said, knowing what you know now, how could you not go out and try to do something about this? The new administration's actions in 2017 showed how our immigration policies and practices are interconnected to our white racist culture. Muslim bans, ICE raids, immigration deportation, child separation at the border, incarceration for profit were all policies and practices pointed to at what I learned about who we are as a country. What were we doing to people who are simply running for their lives? Why were they now criminals? Why were we willing to deport people back to their very unstable and dangerous countries where they may face persecution or possibly death? Then I thought about Ken's words. What could I do about this? Yes, I could promote and vote for those who promote more human immigration policies, and I do. But what if also I could help someone or a small set of people who are now in this country and have fallen victim to our unjust criminal or an unjust immigration system? It's my commitment to the UU Manchester, UU Church of Nazareth Sanctuary Team and the New Hampshire Bail Bond Fund stems from the knowledge that we were giving victims of injustice a chance. And these are people I get to meet and sometimes even get to know well. When I bail people out of Valley Street, clients tell me about the curious circumstances that got them there. They tell me about the dreadful conditions in jail, or they just talk about the challenges they have tomorrow. These are people who haven't been convicted of anything. They're just awaiting trial. They were there just because they couldn't afford bail. I remind myself how lucky I am. The people we host coming from immigration detention are crossing a chasm from a federal detention center into our community. They need all types of system assistance from us just to help them to begin joining their life in the U.S. It could be funds for legal assistance, food and clothing, a cell phone, or even language lessons. As the team works to cobble together support, we get to know that person well. In the example of our friend Bienfait, after a 6-month hosting for Bienfait Poli Poli, one of our guests from the Congo, we asked him, what was the most important thing our group did for him? Bienfait's answer was getting him a library card. At first, I didn't understand this, and after all the things the team and the donors provided him for, but then I sort of got it. The library card was the first legal document that Bienfait had acknowledged, that acknowledged him as a member of the community, and we all helped to get that for him. The need for hosting support continues, and I've added info in the chat, and requests for bailout at the Valley Street are brisk. We continue to look for volunteers for both groups, so anyone interested in helping in either cause, feel free to contact me. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Paul. I heard you get choked up there with Bienfait's library card, and I did as well. Our second testimonial this morning is from Eileen Herring. And again, thank you for putting all of your commitments in the text chat, and continue to do that and continue to let us know how you chose them. Thanks so much for doing this, Eileen.
When my boys were young, I volunteered in their schools. As my second son was getting ready to graduate from high school, I knew I wanted to continue to volunteer, but no longer in a school setting. At the time, one of our neighbors knew that we had a very sweet dog, whom she felt would be a good choice as a therapy dog with home health and hospice care. I took the dog in to see if she would be a good match for the program. It turned out she was not a good match because she would not leave my side unless someone was giving her a treat. Not a good fit for someone else who might need comfort. Until then, I had not considered being a hospice volunteer, but as I talked with the volunteers there, I felt it would be a good fit for me. When I was growing up, my mother had cancer. This was in the 1960s and 1970s. Support groups did not exist, at least not in our community. Hospice did not arrive in the United States until 1974, which is the year my mother died. There was no one to offer support to her or to our family. There was no one to help us understand or walk us through the illness. I did not commit to hospice to heal old wounds, but I found that by the many ways that I volunteered, either by sitting vigil with someone when their loved one couldn't be there, or staying with someone so their family member could be out of the house for a while, or by co-facilitating grief groups for people who had lost a family member, I found that it helped me heal as it helped support them and help them to begin their healing. With COVID, I have been unable to volunteer. I've only been able to volunteer in limited ways, but I look forward to the time when I can recommit to volunteering in person.
Before that amazing song, Eileen read us the words of Henry Nelson Wyman, who said, "Inevitably in our lives, we commit ourselves to something, whether worthy or not." And the Stoic philosopher Seneca, writing 2,000 years ago, said, "Gather and save your time, which till lately has been forced from you or filched away, or has merely slipped from your hands. Certain moments are torn from us. Some are gently removed. Others glide beyond our reach. The most disgraceful kind of loss," Seneca says, "is that due to carelessness." Well, that just seems judgy. I first read that, I felt defensive. Hey, Seneca, I earned that hour playing Pokemon Go. Hey, Henry Nelson Wyman, watching TV counts as self-care. But I can relate to the sense of time slipping from my hands, perhaps due to carelessness. I tell you though, when I'm speaking to you here today, and when we're listening to beautiful music like we just did, hearing from you in the text chat, hearing from our testimonials, seeing that spectacular video by our Director of Faith Formation, Sadie Congreen, I never feel like time is slipping from my fingers. And I'll wager Paul never regrets his hours providing sanctuary for victims of our immigration and refugee policies, providing bail money. I bet Eileen never says to herself, "Oh well, there's another day wasted volunteering at hospice." What do you spend your time doing that makes you fully come alive? A lot of you have been sharing in the text chat. Please continue to do so. Please continue to tell us, how did you choose these commitments? I'm trying to scroll up and find so many great things. Lee Garrett says why she commits to these groups is because of their integrity, their stability, the depth of the resource. Lee says, "I am drawn to big love, appreciation of the awesomeness of creation, and the health and happiness of all. Sonrisa says, one of my commitments is to supporting mental health. I chose this, she says, because of seeing the importance of mental health as part of my own empowerment and that of others. Karen Campbell is committed to donating blood to animal rescue by fostering animals and to providing service to the dying and the grieving. Kathy Grossman says her story resonates with her as her mom died of cancer in 1979. Home health and hospice is a wonderful place to volunteer, says Kathy. And for me, I had the good fortune to travel to India with the Obama State Department in 2015, and I met 3 young women named Lakshmi, Rupa, and Ritu. Ritu might be listening right now. All 3 of them were victims of acid attacks. So their faces and bodies were covered in scars. Although I didn't speak their language, nor they mine, we spent about an hour together with a translator. We exchanged gifts. Lucinda had made jewelry for them. We friended each other on Facebook. And then I left. And on that trip, I made a lot of new Facebook friends, but I especially kept in touch with Lakshmi, with Rupa, and Ritu. I found myself thinking about them all the time. I traveled to India twice more to visit them, and also to visit the Shiro's Hangout. Instead of Heroes, it's Shiro's, which was a cafe that they had started near the Taj Mahal in the city of Agra. The cafe is run by acid attack survivors. Everyone can stop there and eat food and also learn about the Stop Acid Attacks campaign. As I was getting ready for the service this morning, Frank and I were in the room together. They happened to be doing a live stream video and a concert. So once again, I felt compelled to go there, at least virtually. The campaign works to stop acid attacks, but also to change the concept of what it means to be beautiful. The 3 women have become clothing models, and Lakshmi ended up becoming the subject of a feature-length Bollywood film. And I know I will be going back to visit them and to visit the Shiro's Hangout when I return to India, once COVID restrictions permit. Why, though? Why did I choose to commit to the Shiro's Hangout, and to these women in particular? Why do I get on long airplane flights to go see them? Why does Eileen volunteer for hospice? Why does Paul volunteer for sanctuary? There are plenty of other things competing for our attention: our family, our friends, our houses, our jobs. Even things pulling at our attention, like addictions, like advertisements, even things like this church community. But for many of us, there is something that we consistently prioritize, always make time for, sometimes without fully realizing why. And some of you have written, Jordan, you wrote, nothing really has grabbed my attention quite like that in a little while. You said, I used to be committed to so many things, but not right now. And I don't think you're alone there. But I think it might happen. And maybe for some of us, we've waited our whole lives to stand for something. And maybe we'll be inspired by these testimonials or by the example of our friends here in this church. I think that we will know when this happens, when something makes us feel so alive. Rather than Seneca's notion of time slipping from our hands, your time doing this particular thing will have you feeling most alive, like I feel right now. talking with you. So that's one way of choosing our commitments, noticing when we feel most alive. But there's three other ways that I think can help us. Connection, the chance to make a difference, and, like Lee said, following our heart. So first, connection. Now, Ritu, Rupa, and Lakshmi did me that honor of allowing me to connect with them personally. They welcomed me into their lives. Paul made that connection with Bien Fei that we heard about, as well as with other immigrants and other refugees, and Eileen with hospice patients and workers. Your connection might be with other humans or other living beings. Karen with volunteering for animal shelter, and young Amira in our story connecting with her porpoise. As well as connection, there's the chance to make a difference. And for me, there's nothing like that feeling that you've been part of something that has made the world or someone's life just a little bit better. And if you combine these two, connection and making a difference, that's an incredible feeling. I felt this during the Great Peace March for Global Nuclear Disarmament that I have told many of you about, that Heidi Cooper is here from in 1986. Reverend Allison told me she's felt this combination of connection and making a difference all of her life in Unitarian Universalism. Thank you, Reverend Allison, for this and for so many more lessons. And finally, following our heart. Like they sang in the anthem, let love lead the way. It is our head that weighs the pros and cons of each situation, but it is the tug of our heart that might be the most reliable choice maker for our commitments. Lee, you understand this. My heart has led me to those places I feel most alive, to those places I make a difference, to those places where I feel connection. Your heart will lead you to those same places. It already has, most likely, over and over again. Just trust your heart. It has been a long year apart. Like the Beatles sang, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. But spring is coming. The light is returning. And your heart will lead you if you just listen to it. So if you cannot travel to India, if you cannot volunteer for hospice, if you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. We can change the world with our love. May it be so.